or blah, blah, blah. Build back better, blah, blah, blah. Green economy, blah, blah, blah. Net zero by 2050, blah, blah, blah.
The impacts of climate crisis are being experienced by our communities in the name of cyclones and landslides and forest fires. It's also very unfortunate and sad because we have been the guardians of the nature, and at the cost of our life we have been defending the nature. Yet when we are the least contributors to climate crisis, we are facing the most impacts of climate crisis. Yes, I think we do have power, and it's all we have demonstrated what we can do. The youth voices have brought a change in this entire discussion of climate action.
I have seen more and more how the climate crisis is affecting the African continent, which is ironic given that Africa is the lowest emitter of CO2 emissions of all continents except for Antarctica. 6 million Bangladeshis have become displaced as a consequence of climate change. By 2050, 17% of the country's coastline will vanish underwater, creating an estimated 30 million climate refugees. Who is going to pay for the lost islands of the Caribbean and Pacific? Who is going to pay for the communities who must flee the Bangladeshi coastline? Who is going to pay for the thousands of species that fall off of the scientists' red list and into the oblivion? How long shall the land mourn? How long shall the farms lay in ruins? How long shall the herbs of every field wither? How long shall the animals and the birds perish? How long shall children be given up for marriage because their families have lost everything to the climate crisis? How long shall children sleep hungry because their farms have been washed away, because their crops have been dried up because of the extreme weather conditions? How long are we to watch them die of thirst in the droughts and gasp for air in the floods? What is the state of the hearts of the world leaders who watch this happen and allow it to continue? Our leaders are lost and our planet is damaged.
Maria from Romania, and this is actually just a comment to everyone. It's just a reminder that we are all change makers and we should not wait solely for the government actions.
Dear fellow islanders present today, thank you for giving me the opportunity to address you at the AOSIS 2021 Leaders Summit. My name is Victoria Alice, and I speak before you as a youth from the Seychelles Islands, a small island developing state facing and preparing for the unprecedented impacts of climate change, like all other SIDS around the world. The following has been reiterated countless times, but only grows in significance. SIDS contribute less than 1% of global greenhouse gas emissions, but are yet right at the receiving end of climate change impacts, threatening disproportionately the livelihood of communities, national economic growth, poverty eradication, and biodiversity loss, including the irreversible loss of entire ecosystems as explained by the climate tipping points in the IPCC AR6. We must not forget that even within the limit of 1.5 degrees Celsius, SIDS will continue to suffer from loss and damage, particularly those already facing impacts such as tropical cyclones, droughts, sea level rise, and increased floods. It is also important to remember and be extremely concerned that global average temperatures have already increased by 1.1 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels in 2020.
Arctic and the circumpolar north, we are experiencing the climate crisis at up to 4 times the rate as the rest of the globe, a phenomenon called Arctic amplification. That means that our homes, our ancestral homelands, are becoming inhospitable to our communities as increasing winter storms are buffering our coastlines, and our sea ice is no longer forming in the same ways to protect our communities from such weather. It also means that melting permafrost and increased erosion is preventing our communities from finding solid ground to build on and to subsist on, as well as disturbing our traditional life ways and subsistence practices.
Each and every household, from Mauka to Makai, from the mountains to the ocean, is affected by the climate crisis. Whether it's the 2018 catastrophic flooding and rain bombs on Kauai to our most recent flooding on the north shore of Oahu, we see the climate crisis every single day. Additionally, sea level rise poses an immense and immediate threat to many of our communities, particularly those that are Native Hawaiian and Pacific Islander.
Each day, each month, each year, it gets even worse. And I think people need to wake up and take action in fighting climate change.
With the current situation, it will almost be impossible for us to survive. Our health will deteriorate, loss of biodiversity will be common then, discrimination on various bases will arise with climate inequality.
There's been huge urban flooding in Karachi, which is the economic hub of Pakistan. It was unprecedented. It broke records for 89 or so years, and it completely or almost destroyed the infrastructure of the city. Other than that, we have massive and intense heat waves that kill people, and then they can't get out of their houses. And other than that, we have locust attacks on fields, and crop yields are affected. Right now we have a choice, either to silently watch our futures burn down, our futures get destroyed, or to take action right now. We have seen in the past that the world leaders, the very world leaders who draw up agreements, who mobilize other countries to sign on those agreements, those are the same countries that back out from those agreements, and there is no one to ask them why. A developing country or an underdeveloped country, if they back out, international pressure would make them continue with the agreement. But there's no one to ask the developed countries, the big powers, why they have backed out. I see a gap there. What I want the leaders to be discussing is accountability measures for them to live up to their promises.
Thousands of people lost their houses, and we do not have the resources to repair or restore that. So every day we are suffering every day a worse situation.